everybody, to another episode of the Monitor Keeping Podcast. I'm here again with Kai, and today is kind of a redo show for a show we had actually last year with a guest. We couldn't use any of that, so it was a great show too. You guys missed it. Tons of information, the secrets to everything. We really got into it that day. But Kai, how are you, man?
Man, I've been swamped. Yeah. And I just really just hooked back up all the monitors and things like that. So, basically they're getting their gears back into it. I just, had a stressful last, I would say now a week with just the reintroductory part. They're chasing people around, banging up against the cages, and they were actually apart for the last 3 months. So. Yeah, to keep it short and simple, I've just been refereeing monitor lizards. Yeah. How about you, man?
Me?
I'm just seeing your name on there. Did you type that, or is that just what it gave you?
I typed that.
Oh, eight friends? Yeah. Nah, it's my Ferris Bueller reference.
I'm good, man. So I'll let the cat out of the bag a little bit. We got Matt Cossman here today from Reptile Revolt for our guest. We're going to be talking some monitors, but for me personally, it's been insane. I've just been so busy. I think we've tried to record this over the last couple weeks, and just for one thing or another, it's haven't been able to. And then any recording for that matter. I had one guy hit me up. He goes, are you guys still doing the podcast? It's like, yeah, man, we're still doing the podcast. Kids are just getting out of school. It's summer. You got birthdays and weddings and all kinds of crazy stuff. And then we've had a heat wave. I mean, all over the country, there's a heat wave been going on. But up here, there's been a couple days we've had it like 105, and I wasn't ready for that kind of stuff. So I'm running over, shutting everything off, with a fan, fanning things off by hand.
What's weird is that, I don't want to speak too soon for myself, but when you normally experience those heat waves, I get them too, right?
Yeah.
But, man, I've actually just been hanging out in the 80s. I mean, it's still pretty hot, but it's not like 100 degrees, So I think that's pretty cool. And especially for the time of the year, by June and July here, last year was just smoking hot. So
yeah,
I'd be melting. But now it's like I'm taking advantage of the cool weather.
Right.
I guess I use that with my monitors too. I had a crazy run, a bunch of infertile eggs all winter, right? Like maybe 20 to 30 eggs easily. So, and then so I just had a feeling like maybe I should just give them a break, let the males cool down, right? And I took advantage of all this chillier weather. It's not like 100 degrees where it makes everything else 80, 90 degrees. I can basically turn on the AC, get things down to 70, and that's pretty much most of the chill that they kind of need. Maybe 65 too. But yeah, I've just been trying to manage all the mangroves, still have like a routine going on because, man, I was just having a bunch of females just lay and nothing. So just trying to really fit in what I can see would help, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, man, we got Matt back, and it's been a little difficult with, I guess, everybody's schedule. And Alan's got a full plate with work and kids, summer.
Yeah, I'll share with you maybe afterwards, Matt. What Kai's kind of referring to, just insane stuff. My regular job, but yeah, it's been a little crazy. But what about you over there, Matt? You're talking about weddings and
it's been a circus, quite frankly. Yeah. So I'm retired. I retired from the Coast Guard a few years ago after 20 years of that. So most of my time's devoted towards the animals and then, family life. So I'm a chauffeur for little kids and, stuff like that. So I get tapped for a lot of the domestic responsibilities.
Absolutely. I'd be doing the same thing.
Yeah, man. So, but, school's out. Things are about to get a little easier. And, well, easier domestically, but, at the same time, this is when all the monitors are paired up. They're dropping eggs nonstop. Temperatures are going up, so I'm constantly battling to keep temperatures in the reptile rooms, right where they need to be. So
how do you do that? Like I use the AC, and I, don't really have too many lamps on in the daytime.
Yeah.
So only some things on.
It's a little easier for me because I live in Maine, so it's a temperate climate. It's not very hot. I've lived in Huntington Beach before, California, and so I've battled the high temps and stuff, and it's hard to deal with. But here it's not so bad outside, but it does get a little warmer, obviously, in the summer. So you do combat it. What I do is I use two different types of bulbs, two different wattage bulbs. I always use the Philips EcoVantage floodlights. Every time I go to Home Depot, I literally buy as many as I can at the moment, and they're not cheap. It's like, they're like $13-15 for two bulbs, which isn't bad, but you're going there for, paper towels. You don't want to spend $1,000 on bulbs, but I get a few before they stop selling them. But I use the 75 watt equivalent when it's not too, when it's not too hot out. And I use two of those. So I have both of them screwed in, radiating heat in the enclosures. And then as it gets a little warmer, I just gently unscrew one of them so it's only one. And if it gets to be, a little hotter, I swap that out and I put in the 39 watt bulb. And so I say that works for me, but what I always remind people is that works for me here in my enclosures, in my climate, in this room, in this house, in this atmosphere, this state, and everything. So it's going to be different everywhere, but for me, that seems to work pretty well. It's a little more labor intensive. I don't like dimmers. I don't like dimmers because then I'm maintaining ambient air temp, not a basking surface temp. So it's a little more labor intense as far as like constantly going down and checking them, but it gets me the results that I want, and I'm a keep it simple. If it's working for me, I don't want to mess with it,
Right.
So I don't mind checking. I mean, you can see in the background a small portion of the enclosure, so it's not that big of a lift. But you just walk by, once a day, check it out.
Yeah. I do something very similar. I have like a 50 and 75 watt equivalent floodlight that I use, and then end up going down to the 39s, and even the soft white floodlights like the BR30s and BR40s from like Duramax, the Philips bulbs. I end up using some of those sometimes too, but they don't. The animals got to be so close to that bulb, so I end up going back and forth to the Philips. To the floodlights, and I feel like it just heats an area a little bit better.
I love these bulbs, man. I've tried so many different bulbs, and these things are, for me, they're fantastic. You can buy them on Amazon. You can buy them. They're
no. You can buy them on Amazon.
Oh, you guys can't even get them there?
No, I wish I had those 39 watts. Would be perfect right now.
I get contraband. I actually got a box today.
Yeah,
I just got a box of freaking 6 bulbs that you end up having to pay for the bulbs, the shipping, which it's not extremely cheap anymore for that size of a box, and then you got to take care of just the person doing the job. You don't want to have them running around for you for nothing. So it all adds up. And,
you let me know. I'll get you some bulbs, and I'll get them UPS'd over to you guys.
I need another 10 bulbs, and
I'll tell you what. Home Depot. So I got a friend that works at Home Depot as the manager, and that bulb is actually about to be taken off their shelves. So their prices are going to go from like the $13 for 2 bulbs down to like $3 for per bulb. So it's essentially going to get cut in half. So anyone that's looking for them, be monitoring that Home Depot website and buy them up. I'm going to buy like 1,000 of them or more just to like keep it going.
Right. I heard that people, or not people, I heard that they're actually going to be discontinuing floodlights that they're going to try to do the whole nation.
Yeah.
Right now it's a handful of states, right? But and I thought it was ridiculous when it was just California. But all these other states are following suit too. It's probably like the whole like go green thing,
Right.
Yeah, there's got to be a balance with that stuff. I mean, we all want a good environment, obviously. I think it goes without saying, but it is a necessity for some industry.
It's for us.
For us, like, for sure. I mean,
what other bulb will we really have?
I really don't know, and that's why I stockpile them. Quite frankly, I mean, if I were going to put a number on it, I've probably got close to 1,000 of them right now, and I don't see that as even being a remotely sufficient number for like if they go away. So that's why I tell folks, when you see them, buy them, because you just don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna have to come up with something else, maybe, or a different way to use other bulbs that are out there, like the G9s or the G10 halogens.
They got the DP projectors. I mean, I've heard about those from like VivTech and stuff.
Man.
I've never
really
used them. They're expensive though.
They're right. I don't know if you guys have seen they're kind of strong, and at a distance, I've used them and they work pretty well. But it's a Zoom Ed bulb. It's a reptile bulb. It's the turtle bulb. It's called the Splash Guard, and it's basically just a floodlight for turtles. It's marketed that way with the box, so it's called Splash Guard or something like that.
The problem is you're paying for a lot of marketing.
Yeah,
and all you need is a floodlight.
Right. The bulb. I mean, I guess it's not so bad. I think I can buy the bulbs at shows because what it is because they're marketed for turtles. People just disregard that bulb, right? Yeah. And I've actually seen those bulbs go for super cheap, like the 75 watt. I think I got for $9.99, which is comparable to what I'm paying now per bulb.
It's not
that bad. Yeah. So for people out there that are going to be in the floodlight scare or something like that down the road,
we're going to be like in that baby formula scare. We're going to be scouring the nation for.
You're going to see me at the Anaheim show with a bunch of white boxes that I bought off of, what is that, Alibaba, by the pallet full.
That's right. You're cleaning up, selling them in the parking lot.
Yep.
Yeah, so now with your setup and overheating, you're just switching bulbs, right? You're not having to struggle too much with
it's not too big of a battle. For me, it's not too big of a battle. My basement is where my rooms are, so it's a little easier to maintain solid temps. It's a heated basement, so in the wintertime it's very easy. In the summertime, it doesn't get that hot. It probably goes up, probably 15 degrees from the wintertime.
That's nice.
It's manageable. It's very, very manageable. So,
okay, that's not bad at all, man.
Yeah, it could be a lot worse.
If I ever get to build a reptile room at the house we're at right now, because everything's kind of off-site right now, but if I ever get to use some of the space in the backyard, we're kind of on a slope for it goes downhill, so we get a lot of anything grows in our yard, which is awesome. We're pretty close to the river, gets all the nutrients kind of in there, and I mean, you don't accidentally throw some seeds outside because you'll have a tree next year, Yeah. And but on the back side of the property, where it continues down, I'd love to cut out a section and basically make a portion of it almost subterranean, kind of
built into the hillside.
Yeah, geothermal type of whatever. I don't know. Smarter people know what I'm trying to say, but
I know exactly what you're talking about. Cut into the hillside and use some of that. Yep.
Yeah, just to buffer that. And then I was thinking, if I were able to do it the right way, I could actually put outdoor cages on top of the building itself if I do it right, or right off the other side of it that isn't close to basically like a back wall of dirt, and build the outdoor cages on that side. I got it in my head, it's got solar panels and a solar battery, and it works perfectly up here, but we'll see if I ever get there.
Putting it in the actions when it gets fun.
Yeah.
It's amazing how building an enclosure can just destroy your psyche for a moment. I built all my own enclosures, and just this last week, this room was a complete disaster area because I was building 4 new enclosures, and I build the stand first out of 4x4 posts. And it's very simple. We're not talking rocket science here. I get it, I build it, I flip it to have it, it's on casters, and it's rocking, it's not leveled. I'm like, what the hell? I must have I disassembled this thing 1,001 times, put it back together, and I realized the goddamn floor wasn't level in that spot.
Oh, no.
I'm like, son of a bitch. So So I put shims under it to make it level.
Yeah,
this is the floor.
Stacking napkins.
Yeah, I'm like, Mom, it's like that wobbly table at the restaurant, you know?
Yeah.
And it turns out it's just a dip in the cement in the floor, and I'm like, I probably put 2 hours into taking this thing down and putting it back together because it's got to be, you know.
Oh, yeah, I get that way, too. When two cages don't line up, there's, at the most an eighth of an inch off. I'm like, why aren't you straight? You know?
Yeah, it's maddening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my lady, she says when the house isn't really going to be clean until I'm actually done.
Yeah.
There's just stuff everywhere, and then I'll have, because the way most of the cages are, I have them stacked on top of each other. So if I want to work on one of the bottom cages, and I got to take off the upper cages, it's got to sit somewhere else, and then luckily I don't have to do that too often. I really made a decision on what's at the bottom, so it doesn't really move. But
I used to do that a lot, and I got away from it because of that very thing. It was always, for one person trying to do it, it's not always easy to enlist help, and I doubt your wife wants to be carrying this shit around and heaving cages off.
She does.
Yeah.
I know, but it's a tough sell. You know what I'm saying? But so I've only got four cages that are stacked. The rest of them are all standalones on stands, just for that reason. So I have less, but it's easier to manage, man. And for me at this point in my life, it's just, I'll take easy over quantity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of people are doing now.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people are just maybe focusing on a certain species or just narrowing it down to from having so much. Me and Alan were literally having this conversation the other day.
Yeah.
And me and Mike also had this conversation too, where, damn, these we're like a slave to all these animals, and with the normal life too, like that, although, we love our reptiles, but that normal stuff with the lady and the family, the kids, all that is really important too. So
you gotta weigh and measure.
Yeah.
I've thinned down tremendously in the past 2 years. I think some people would look at what I got and be like, "Oh my God, you're like a hoarder of reptiles." But for me, 20. I mean, they're sizable, but 20 enclosures is sufficient. I've had double that before, and it's like, and that's when I was missing clutches. I would be like, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to dig up this nest box on a whim, and I'd find eggs that are desiccated from super worms eating through them or something. I'm like, God, dog, that's not what you want to find. You put in all this time, effort, and money into feeding them up and prepping them, and you get eggs that just rot in a box. And occasionally I've had eggs hatch. I see babies running around. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I need to get my shit together. I've had black tree monitors, pop up in cages before, little babies, and pygmy molded monitors. Yeah, and I'm like, well, the thing is it's neat and everything, but most of them get eaten, so it's like a rogue baby here and there. And I'm like, geez, just last winter, I think I lost, I think it was 4 black tree babies, but I found one of them. One of them, they had all hatched. So I found the eggs hatched, slit open and everything. And I found one baby in the enclosure with the adults. And I was like, well, I mean, one beats none from that, that would have been nice to have all of them, Would have been nice.
There.
Yeah. Man, it's tough. I myself have just told myself there's all these things. I just made a giant list of what I have to do.
Oh, geez. I can't do that.
All of them are paired now. And so it's like, all right, the next thing is, gradually go up in temps and then start feeding a certain way. But man, the major hard work would be to revamp all the nesting options.
Oh,
just to, add water, turn it times.
I've got a routine on that one. I keep it pretty. So all my nest boxes are literally exactly the same, with the exception of the pygmy rock monitors, but they're 8 inches long. I'm not going to give them a big ass nest box. But aside from them, everybody gets the same nest box. And what I do is every single month I investigate every box. And that means I take my Home Depot bucket, set it on the ladder next to me, and I empty it out. And I'm checking it. And it's because I'm only human, man. I got other things going on. And, some monitors are more secretive than others. But the real reason is it forces me to check the nest box, because I've let them dry out a little bit too much. It's like, okay, it's the first of the month. Let's get in here. Let's just crack the top. Let's see what we're working with. And getting it on a schedule for me is so much easier than just trying to remember to get to it.
Right.
Because I never will.
Right.
So I'm not disciplined enough.
I do kind of the same thing, but what I've done is I have basically standby nest boxes. So when I take one out, I can throw one right back in I know there's no eggs in and leave them alone. Now I got this one out. So at the same time, I can turn the soil. The nest boxes in use have a hole cut in those tops. The ones that are on standby, I make to kind of where I want them and not overly wet. And I just put the top back on. Because usually I'm doing that process before I'm going to see any kind of like problems from airflow or anything like that. And then that's what's helped me out in the past. Now I've fallen behind even doing it that way, which, or had to add some water or whatnot. But yeah, it's constant. It is absolutely constant.
Basically monthly, at least. Really
I'll get one where I'll see like just a random egg somewhere sometimes. And now, especially if it's in the big walk-in cages, now I'm like, stop everything I'm doing. I got to dig up this 8 by 4 foot. Yeah. I'm in there just cussing my head off. There better be a clutch in here.
Yeah, those are the reasons why I went to nest boxes. I know where the targeted lay-in is going to be. And I've been there. I had these enclosures where I had 4 foot by 4 foot nesting areas. Hey, I'm telling you right now, a 12-gallon plastic tote digging it up for eggs is a pain in the ass. 4 feet by 4 feet by 3 feet deep of soil and mulch, that's a nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
It only took me a couple of years of dealing with that to being like, you know what? This shit's for the birds. I like to know exactly where they're going to be.
And most of the time they lay in the nest bins, but man, I got some really picky females that they just take forever. They dig it out. And then they just lay there. So then when I added the whole in-floor caging nesting thing, it just made it easier for them. Yeah, they just found it a lot simpler. Like within the time frame when they start really, really digging into when they finish, it's a whole lot faster. But I still got girls that utilize the nest bin and more normally utilize the nest bin rather than searching somewhere else.
I think it's species dependent too. I probably wouldn't use a nest bin for a lot of species that are bigger, but for tree monitors and pork monitors, it's cake. It's just simplifying life, making things easier, streamlining it, making it almost like an assembly line. Because I want to be able to walk into every cage and know that I'm using the same bulbs, they're roughly the same dimensions, same nest box medium, same heat source. Yeah, it's all turnkey. So when it's not working, I can instantly target those things that are standard across the board. It just makes it a little easier. Yeah, but everybody's a little special. Everybody's a little different. I don't know what the hell was what. I don't remember what I did with the blue trees and the black trees, the tristis, this, that. If I keep oh Jesus, don't even get me started. I love them. You know what? They're probably one of my favorite species because for me, they're a pain in the ass. Yeah, they really, really are. I've heard so many folks talk about how easy they were and like, oh man, I used to breed these back in the day, and I'm like, fuck you, like these are killing me. Like they're so like they're bold, but they're secretive at the same time. Like I'll open up the door and they just look at me like, what do you want?
Right.
But when they're hiding, you don't see them for days. And I've seen them copulate like multiple times for like one session, like for a few days. But they've laid clutches that I never knew she was gravid. I had no idea. So this last time, I'm like a helicopter parent, man. I'm just hovering over her, waiting to see any change. And I got to tell you, like, I think I'm going to stick with just the one pair because they are taxing on my patience.
They are handing it to me this year. The past years, it's like, okay, it was a clutch and a clutch and a clutch and whatnot. They were treating me pretty good. And this last season, and they have thrown me for loops before, but I was still getting good clutches in between there. This last season, I mean, she'll still do it. I'll go feed her, and she'll plump up over the week and look like, all right, we're doing this. Yeah. I'm like, all right, perfect. I've seen them locked up, and then nothing. Yeah. And so they kind of keep me honest in that way. I wish I could make, you said, an assembly line, and they're the ones that come in and they're just like, nah, we're not.
Yeah, this doesn't work for me. Yeah. You're not wrong, man. You're not wrong. I'm actually in the process of building them a bigger, newer enclosure, not in this room, in the tree monitor room, because I have more space over there. This room that I'm in right now that you guys can see behind me is just dwarf monitors. So I'm gonna move those over there. It's a little bit warmer in that room, but I'm gonna do kind of like what you do, Kai, with like the ground nesting, and it's really just because I just want to see, does this make a difference for these guys? Because while they'll use their nest box, she doesn't seem very impressed with it. You know, she'll root around in there, she'll dig in there. I'll see her sling some dirt, but I don't really see her really actively engaging in nesting. You know, like I've got clutches, which is fantastic, but I'm of the opinion that with dwarf monitors, if you're not getting a clutch like monthly or every few months, then you just don't have them dialed in, because that's what they're designed to do, quite frankly. You know, that's how they survive in the wild, you know. So
they're hard to get to stop once you get them going.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to do, man. If I could get them going, I'd be thrilled. And it's really just, for me, it's personal satisfaction. I just want to know that I can figure them out. And that's really why I have some of the species I have, is just because I enjoy getting something that is notorious for not being great breeders and tinkering with it until I find out just what it likes. You know, and my hat's off to people like, you know, Brian Waterloo and what he's doing up in Illinois, Brian Duraca, what he did with peacock monitors, and, you know, the quince monitors, you know, the Molinas, you know, people that take these species that aren't terribly common, Kai, what you're doing with the mangroves, and you're dialing in and you're working with them and you're getting them to reproduce. These are things that just, you know, historically aren't done widely, you know, like Ackies. Yeah. I mean, if you can't breed Ackies, there's something wrong with you, quite frankly. You know, I mean, you can keep them marginally well, and they'll breed for you. But for the rest of the stuff, it's fun to tinker with them. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. I agree with you 100% on that. And you know, I'm having no luck with the dwarf Indonesian stuff. I've had a few clutches here and there. I have yet to hatch one, and they're perfect looking eggs. And then all of a sudden, the eggs will just go south on me. And it's tough to figure out, you know, what exactly I'm missing with that. And then, you know, and judging off of Ackie eggs isn't good, because they hatch almost in any condition.
They're like bulletproof, man.
Yeah. And then the Kims this year have been hit and miss, you know. Half of one clutch hatched. None of the last clutch. It was a small clutch, you know. So there's a few more clutches incubating, but now I kind of, I don't know. I feel that apprehension creeping in, that worry, just like, what are they doing today? How do they look today? Almost like over-analyzing the eggs and trying not to mess with them. Thank God sim containers are clear, you know, because otherwise...
we pop on the top all the time.
Sure. But, yeah, so it's just, you know, trying to figure these things out, because, when I have other species hatching or have hatched in these same conditions, and there hasn't been an issue, it's like, okay, what's the issue now? Is it something I'm doing? Is it the female?
You know, there's always modifications that can be done that they seem to, you know, be a little more preferred for certain species. Like an example that I would give would be like King Gorum, pygmy rock monitors. They like it a little bit drier than some eggs do. You know, they're not like I'm just speaking with my experience. The 50-50 ratio doesn't always work so well with pygmy rock monitor eggs, you know, but Ackie monitors, you can put them over straight water in a sim and they do wonderfully. You know, same thing with tree monitor eggs, quite frankly. I think they're very hardy eggs. Other people will say otherwise, but I would disagree. But King Gorum, they're a little finicky. I've heard the same with the Kimberly Rock. I've not worked with them in forever, so not enough to get eggs, but
man, it's like it's a hard balance for people to understand, because, you know, they usually equate humidity with a lot of moisture, right?
Yeah.
But it's making the container humid, but the eggs kept dry.
Yeah, you want to keep some airflow. You don't want them dripping on them, you know?
Right. And I mean, even just like the feel, you know, what's weird is I'd sit them on dry perlite, but underneath was slightly moist. And that was it. It wasn't like I'm not feeling sogginess within the perlite, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I found the Kimberleys do best at. You know, I was kind of doing them like how I was doing mangroves, right? Just over whatever, any kind of medium. But even then, that was just too much moisture or something like that.
Yeah.
I have a whole baggie full of dead Kimberleys, man. So
yeah, I've seen that stuff's heartbreaking, but I chalk it up to this is a livestock business. You know, it's a livestock hobby. You're dealing with living organisms that, you know, they play by their own rules sometimes. So we try our best. We try to replicate, you know, nature's parameters as best we can. But, you know, it's worth noting and reminding folks that this is still being pioneered. It's come a long ways since like the 90s when I first, you know, had stuff in a 10-gallon aquarium with a screen top with some weights and books on top to keep them from knocking the lid off. You know,
and we're still making that work too. You know?
Yeah, but it's come a long way, and we've still got a long way to go. There's a lot of data that we just don't know. You know, and I, you know, things that I like seeing is what's his name, Dave Kaufman, who's doing the videos. Like, I mean, for me personally, I don't give a shit about Savannah monitors. They're not impressive to me, other than the fact that like they're interesting and they come from a very harsh area. But to me, I'm not interested in those kind of monitors. But I really, really like the fact that he went out there and he made this video about the ball pythons and the Savannah monitors, and he's getting data points that, quite frankly, we just don't know. We don't know what the soil content is and how dry and humid and the basking time. These are things that we're guessing at, or we're reading some half-ass Wikipedia, you know, blurb written by God knows who, you know. So, you know, these are the kind of things that I really like to see, because those are the things that will slingshot us into better husbandry very quickly, you know. I mean, it's been a long time since we've had a major leap in our husbandry. And I think videos like that, efforts like that, like people like Ari Flegel of Reptile India in Texas, he goes over to Indonesia all the time, getting good data points. These are the kind of things that need to keep happening. And while it's great for the conservation, of course, and it's great for zoos and replicating things, but from a hobby standpoint for us that are, you know,
it makes you think.
Yeah, it makes you think, and it makes you implement. It makes you think about your own conditions and what you can do different. I mean, I know for me, for the longest time, when I first started with tree monitors, for example, I was cooking them. I had them at these super high basking spots. I was treating it like it was a big-ass water monitor. You know, I had these super hot basking spots. The cage, like you open it up and it smacks you in the face with heat. And that's not what they want. That's not what they thrive on. And if you look at the data, you know, the data from like, you know, the environment of like this specific, you know, the archipelago of Batanta where the blue trees are, that's not the environment there. So when you implement those sort of like things that you learn from people like Ari or Dave, and you know, put them into practice in your own collection in your husbandry, you get better results. So I really applaud people like Dave and Ari that are going out there and putting in the work and bringing it back for, you know, maybe not necessarily for us as hobby breeders and whatnot, but, you know, we as a whole, like anyone else does. I think it's really valuable stuff.
There's just, you know, I think when we're thinking about stuff in captivity, we've kind of been just doing it our way, you know. What we're used to more so, right? But then when we see things that, you know, it's like it just doesn't all add up, right? And those videos or those ideas from what they do in the wild, how can we implement them in captivity and things like that? That's what's kind of bridging that next step on, you know, like this year we're able to have a couple hatch out croc monitors. You know, that's probably
I just saw them.
really big news.
How cool is that?
Yeah, and that's I think it's happened like in rare occasions, but it's been a long time, you know. And I think the last time before that was really just Tom Crutchfield hatching parthenogenic ones, which is still a feat in itself.
Which is great, and I applaud him and Vanessa and Stacy and all them. Yeah. They've done a great job, but to me, while it is an accomplishment, it's not the same as an ongoing captive breeding program in which you are regularly getting production from. It's great. It's awesome. God knows we all love to see it, but I find it really to be beneficial when someone is cracking that boundary, and they're like, I've got them dialed in. Here's what I do. And I got to say, social media is one of those things where it's awesome and it's terrible in the sense that it's very much a monkey see, monkey do type thing. If you see someone doing something like with regards to like their husbandry efforts and they have a large following, people will emulate it, even if it's the worst idea in the world. They're like, this person's got 600 followers or whatever the hell, and people start doing it. And then they're not getting the results that I know that they want, but they're too proud to admit it. But then at the same time, you see folks doing it the right way, and monkey see, monkey do. People will replicate those. So it's an ongoing challenge where you got to do it not just the right way, the minimal right way, but you really got to go above and beyond. And that's why I was saying I applaud people like what Ari's doing at Reptile India. Like if you've not seen the facility that they're building there, that reptile zoo, it's amazing.
I've seen just some limited pictures, but yeah, it looks absolutely amazing.
We sponsored their tree monitor exhibit, and Ari was kind enough to give me a video tour of the place. I'm telling you, I've never been to Texas for other than business and passing through, but I'm going to Texas to check this place out because it's amazing. And people like Brian, I don't know if you guys made it up to Monitor Fest, but I used to live right down the street from Brian Waterloo, and his enclosures with the lace and the this and the that, these are the enclosures that inspire people to do something bigger and better, instead of just some big old box of, heat that are turning their lizard into beef jerky, That's the kind of stuff that I like. That's the monkey see, monkey do side of it that I really like. People, emulating that sort of stuff. So we just need to get more people doing it that way.
I want to change some things because I had a certain idea. I love some of the cages I'm using for the dwarf stuff. They work great, but to get in there and add a few things, and then get a couple other ones, I just. There's a way to simplify it so they're functional, they look great, and they're actually less work than kind of some things I'm doing now. Yes. And that's something I want to achieve. I know it's there, but it just takes time to make that conversion over. To do it once you get it dialed in, once it's set up right, it works great. But making that leap. Time, money, all that stuff that goes into it.
Not free. It's not free, and neither is your time. So it takes effort. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's also worth noting that, and I have this conversation with literally, it seems like every single buyer of a baby monitor.
Yeah.
Aesthetically pleasing, like having a beautiful enclosure to start out with, is not nearly as important as having the correct husbandry parameters. So don't go for the naturalistic, heavily planted enclosure if you don't know your parameters as far as temps, humidity, this, that, whatever, airflow. Start with the basics and build from that. And I'm a very big proponent of naturalistic enclosures. If you see my setups, I always have the backgrounds and everything, and I want it to look nice. I want it to look appealing, even though I could put up something simple like lattice, which a lot of people do, and it's a very functional product. It absolutely serves the purpose of them having a usable surface on the wall. But I like for it to look nice. So having it look nice is not nearly as important as having it functional. So that's why I tell people, don't worry so much about all the the faux foliage and the beautiful faux backgrounds and all this stuff. Get your parameters right first, Have the right heat, have the right temps, have the right airflow, have the right surface temps, all these little things that people sometimes make secondary to it looks really cool, and it does.
Exactly.
It might be killing your animal.
I think there's that nice middle ground of, it's not totally sterile, just like you said, a box, everything's so plain. It's easy and convenient because you can literally take something out, wipe it down, change out everything. But something that still looks great. And trying to find that happy medium in your collection and doing them all, treating all the animals the same way,
I see a ton of cages that are just missing stuff, and it's just one or two things,
Yeah.
They got like the basking stuff down and maybe some things to climb, but man, monitors are like microhabitus, so they love like little tight nooks that people are missing. People will do a whole crazy water feature, but I think that the nesting area or an area to dig soil is a little bit more outweighing than the water feature.
Sure. I would agree for sure. I think aesthetics comes second for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't post a lot of pictures and videos of like my quarantine setups because it's like it's basic. I mean, it is so basic. It's almost embarrassing, but it's about monitoring them, being able to observe them, making sure I can see their food intake. I'm monitoring, like, are they defecating? Like all these little things that you need to know when you first get them. But I don't show that because I don't want to send a message to the folks that don't know and don't see the other stuff. They're like, oh, so that basic ass box you have there with a piece of cork bark screwed into the wall, that's all I need. Well, I mean, this is just to get this animal, quarantined and acclimated to captivity after being shipped, God knows how many miles for however many days, weeks, and months in horrid conditions, from some, Jakarta bird market. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just to get them squared away so that I can set them up properly. This is for ease observance. So I don't want to say that.
Yeah, it's an important step too, quarantining and getting things. Because my animals, that's one of the things. Like, I'm at that point where, okay, what do I do with some of the Indonesian stuff? It's like pull them out of this quarantine because I've seen some things where they've gone up and down, up and down. So it's like, okay, well, hold on, we got to keep everything in for a little bit longer. And but yeah, the quarantine cages are pretty simplistic. And then I have. One and a half, I got the stuff to build the other half and another cage for bigger cages for them. But until I'm convinced they're locked on, I'm so hesitant to put them in that bigger cage because I'm just like, okay, I almost would do myself a favor and plug in that bigger cage in with everything how I want it and setting it up and testing it out for a solid month just so I know how the cage acts. It's probably something I should do. Yeah, and because I'm afraid of those guys.
That was the issue that I had. Remember, Matt, when I messaged you like maybe I don't know, maybe almost a month ago now, where I had my monitor had those little blisters and sores on them.
Oh
right?
yeah.
So I basically went from a quarantine enclosure because I got that mail from Michael Cole, right? One of his very last mails that
he sent me. So,
one of the colis, and then really it was a great plug-in to all my stuff, but I had to quarantine him. So he was kept, he was not even soil, just leaf litter, water dish, cork tube, and then a flat, right? And it would sleep mostly on the flat. I'd take the tube in and out if it just stayed in there all the time, But it was really different for what I've had to do with this guy. And then I shoved him into an enclosure that I basically put together so fast, like what Alan was mentioning, that I should have let this enclosure probably sit for a good week or two, let maybe the excess humidity come out. But when I put them in there, they went both directly into the moist soil and then into the nest bin. Yeah. And these guys are all they do is hide.
Warm and moist. It's bound to happen.
Yeah.
It's perfect recipe. Yeah.
Right. And so I was just like, all right, I was. After a few days, I was realizing, their skin doesn't look like it normally should. It usually looks pretty sleek and smooth, but then I pulled them out and I realized there was all these little wounds on them, and so I just
had to heal up.
Yeah, they actually healed up really well. They're a little bit of just scabs now that are basically drying off.
That'll slough off.
But it'll slough off and. Some of it is, mating marks where, the male's scratching the female's back, but the other stuff on the tail and things like that, I had to get those nipped in the bud. So all I really did was just give them a soak, let some of the scabs come off, and then I just rinsed them with iodine and water, and then I did that, repeated that a couple times. But then what I did with the enclosure, I just closed off the nest bin, so it's still in there. It's just got a cap on it, right? And then took out all that moist sand and just put straight leaf litter at the bottom. And it's thick leaf litter, so they can get in there.
Yeah.
But it's not where it's like trapping a bunch of moisture.
Yeah, they're not going to saturate themselves.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one though too, because on the other side, I've made this mistake where you start to notice something that could be attributed to moisture, right, affecting them a certain way. So naturally, what do you want to do? You want to go dry them out and dry the cage out, and then you run into other problems because that's not actually what they needed. Yeah. But maybe you can't accomplish both in that cage that you have, the way it's set up. It could be as simple as something along the lines of like a nest box at one side, or a half the cage is able to maintain a certain amount of moisture, and then you have better ventilation on the other side of the cage. Mm-hmm. Secure hides in both that they are willing to hide in, you know, because if there's only one good hide, that's the one they're going to go in, whether it's on the too dry side or too wet side. So it's an interesting thing, because I made the mistake of then drying something out, keeping it too dry. And then I looked in there one day and the eyes are sinking in. It's like,
it's wise to be mindful of that pendulum swing of like too far to the right on your approach, too far to the left on your approach, you know?
Yeah.
Just because you're trying to undo. It's like, oh, I went way too far on this husbandry method. Like, let me back it off, and then you swing too far to the other side. So, you know,
sometimes it's in between for me. I've learned. Going from when I was, you know, a noob, and then, you know, then you think you know what you're doing, right? And so the enclosures are kind of decked out, man. But sometimes that would really work against me with my species, right? I think it's overall, I just wasn't satisfied with them being just hidden all the time, 24/7. You know, they come out when I leave, and that's it. You know,
I want
to see them, right? And so instead of doing all that, I simplified it. So it's kind of like a mix between simple quarantine setup with a little bit more now. That's really it now. It's no longer these fully decked out enclosures where, you know, there's just 2 foot of soil everywhere in every direction. Now I have it simplified on where I want it to be. Now I actually have a real dry, cool side where, you know, it's the soil isn't stagnant. They can burrow there without, you know, getting those bumps and blisters and stuff like that, right? And then also now that I have my like elevated tubes strategically placed rather than just throwing tubes any which way, I can see them, enjoy them better. The interaction is a whole lot better.
It's for sure.
Still giving them the parameters that they need, but it's not going too far where it's inconvenient for me as a keeper.
Do you use like cork tubes for them to tuck away in?
Yeah. I have one on the warm side, one on the cool side. I might have a couple more, but mostly it's to have the option to do both.
You know what found? What I found that works really well with monitors that like to tuck themselves away, and you want to be able to see them, but you want them to be comfortable to acclimate, because eventually they'll come around out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what I've done with tree monitors specifically is I'll take those cork tubes. I'll take one that's like got a 3 or 4 inch diameter, and I'll screw it into the back wall. And before I put the tree monitors in there, I'll take like a whole hole saw or whatever, and I'll cut 1 inch holes all the way down that cork tube. So there's like inches. Like every 2 inches, there's a block where he can't see, and then there's like an inch or 2 inch where he can see. So as he goes in there, eventually, like it'll just sit there, and you'll just see like that one eyeball sticking out through that hole.
Yeah.
And he's watching you, and he's eventually losing that fear, because he's like, I feel safe. Right. I can see you. I don't think that you can see me, but I am in this snug area. And eventually, you find that they're just not in it anymore. So
that's like the whole like mind fuck of it all, where you know, it's like you're giving them the ability to be comfortable. They can see you. You're doing your own thing, and at the same time, it's slowly, and you can still see them, right?
Yeah. So you can get your body composition and all that stuff, and you don't have to rip them out of the tube, you know, and give them a look. You know?
Yeah, yes. So it's like mine are just placed against the wall where I can easily peer into them. I haven't really done that. I've tried to, but I ended up just busting holes through and breaking the cork tube.
Get yourself a hole saw, man. Just drill like 2 inch wide holes. Just or even 1 inch all the way down it, and you'll be amazed. Like,
I guess what I was looking at was to have something that was, I think, more like 5 or 6 inches in diameter, roughly.
Well, you got bigger stuff than I do, so you got different challenges.
And I just want to cut a whole strip of cork out of the one side, and then have it hanging where it's more like it's hanging like this, and,
like a crescent where they can look. They can
see through here, but they still have their thing. And I'm thinking about doing that instead. I like the whole method. It's just I want them to be exposed where I feel like the exposure slowly after time they just lose the scariness.
I really think they do. And the reason I do the holes is because the cork tube is still connected in a lot of spots. So as it dries out over time, it's not going to just be brittle and collapse because there's no support along that wall. So having those gaps where it's like it's still connected all the way around, it supports it. Right? Yeah, because I mean I've got tubes in here that are years and years and years old that have got those holes in.
10 years old.
Yeah, they're dried up cork tubes, but they're still pretty sturdy. They're not coming apart anytime soon. Yeah, not in my time anyway.
I don't know what I was thinking I was going to find. I went to the show today, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll pick up some larger cork tubes, like some 3-foot pieces or whatnot. They were like $75, $100 a piece labeled at the show.
Everything's getting more expensive, man.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. I'm going to have to come up. I love cork, and, I've ordered a few boxes of stuff usually, but it's I can use it with tree monitors. I can use it with the dwarf stuff, but not the bigger stuff.
You know what? Save your money, man. Go to Home Depot and get some PVC. Drill those holes, mount those sons of bitches on the wall. The monitor doesn't know the difference. It's a hide, man.
Right. That's where I think I'm leaning. And, I was going to just cap the ends, but cut the cap in a way where the animal could fit in, but almost like it would hold leaf litter within the tube, just to give it some kind of something for the animal, and just stuff it full of leaf litter, and use some PVC tubes, because
I think you'll get it more interested in exploring it, because it'll be wanting to explore those scents in there. So if you throw in some fresh leaves, I mean, it's going to investigate it,
Yeah.
It's going to check it out. I mean, they're foragers. That's what they do. They're not going to survive otherwise. I mean, speaking of prices going up, though, have you looked at the prices of rodents?
No, man.
My God. A month, 2 months ago, whatever it was, I bought, a freezer full of, rodents, pinkies and stuff. And I was like, oh, man, that's kind of expensive, $29 for a bag of pinkies. Now they're like $50 or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, my God. I called 3 different frozen rodent vendors last week, and they're like, yeah, man, fuel prices has gone up so high that prices are going up, and they're about to get marked up again. So just on Friday, I just, loaded up another several boxes of stuff.
Luckily, most of my stuff I can kind of get away with some mice. I don't use a ton, but
you got the grasshopper thing going, man. That's
If I were to be that's my other supplement, but man, I use the chicks, and then I also use shrimp and crawfish a lot. So if I have to order from the company like Louisiana crawfish, then they're kind of expensive. But
if you've got an Asian fish market nearby, those are gold mines.
And it's $5 for a pound. I'll buy like maybe 3 or 4 pounds, and it'll last me a while
for sure.
And I don't feed a ton, so I used to feed so much where it's like, man, I'm just kind of going through bags of chicks.
And Adam Slayton
kind of adds up.
He sells chicks. That's where I get mine from. But I get the chicks, and then I get the eggs, the quail eggs that are just about to hatch. Those are phenomenal. I mean, that's an absolute calorie bomb for monitors that can eat an egg that big. I mean, I don't know if it's sufficient for like the diet of like mangroves and stuff, but for a lot of
it's actually really good. It's exactly the bite size, because I guess most of my mangroves are. I mean, they're probably smaller lengthwise than some of your tree monitors. I think my oldest female right now, she's like 8, right?
Yeah.
She's only 24 inches.
Yeah.
So yeah, those eggs are basically perfect bite size.
They're great, man.
Can get them down.
Those, I tell you what, I go through so many quail eggs when it's like trying to like plump them up, like give them that food intake burst to like stimulate a reproduction event. Those things are, I mean, it's like a guarantee. You pump them full of quail and quail eggs, and they just go crazy, you know?
I need to find some quail eggs.
Check out Adam Slayton. He's on Facebook, and I think he has a website, but Adam Slayton LLC or something like that. He sells tons of quail. A lot of people buy from him. Mike Stefani turned me on to the guy. Great prices. I mean, he ships them like super well packaged. I mean, I'm not buying them from anyone else after that, you know. Best ways. Yeah, straight up good guy.
Okay, yeah, I will check that out because, man, even you know, I would include some other food items for things. I would buy some random things here and there, but the price, I have seen the price of everything going up, even for like chicken hearts and gizzards.
Yeah,
you know,
stuff.
Yeah, it used to be like $2. Now it's $3.50. It's creeping up. You know,
it's not going down either. It's going to keep going up.
So. I got a couple of species of roaches. I might have to add in those hissers for some bigger roaches, and feed them all.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, this yard I was talking about where anything grows, I'm just going to start throwing some, you know, something that I don't have to pay too much attention to, that the roaches can eat, that'll just grow like crazy, you know.
Go nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, try to become as self-sufficient as I can, and because those prices, man, they're.
My food source for my animals is cyclical. So, like in the summertime, I buy, you know, a couple thousand really small roaches, like little dubias, like the cheapest you can get them, you know, super small, and I don't feed them off to anybody all through the spring, summer, and fall. Only when it's winter, because in the winter time up here in Maine, you can't buy crickets or roaches. It'll die in transit. It's just too cold here. So I'm buying the roaches in the spring and the summer to fatten them up for like the winter time to feed off to the animals. So come time when I'm about out of them, it's warm enough for me to start buying crickets again and roaches again.
Smart.
So I have to be, you know, I would say that's probably something, maybe depending on where folks live, that might be something worth thinking about. You know, prepare for that season when it's too hot or too cold to ship something. And that's why I buy my roaches. You know, I'll buy like, I don't know, I think I buy like 5,000 at a time, like little babies. It's still not cheap, but it's a lot cheaper than buying 5,000 adults, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fraction of that, you know, and the same thing with, you know, buy your mice when you can. And if you folks are feeding rodents, man, check out, you know, Gourmet Rodent, Mice Direct, Rodent Pro, Cold Blood Cafe or whatever, you know, buy them up. Yeah. Prices are going up again, you know, and it's got out of reach.
Nuts. It's really nuts. I used to be in the I used to do rodents before I figured out that I'm deathly allergic to them. You know,
it's like
the urine buildup that'll kill you. It's a silent killer. You know.
Yeah. No thanks.
Man, to think about it, if to just do rodents, it's just that food. You're literally going through bags of dog food a day. That's gone from $25 to like probably $30 to $50 now, you know. And so I was looking at that market. Because I was looking at myself. I was like, man, with these, you know, with the groceries going up so high, it's $3 for one head of lettuce, you know, on top of whatever else I'm buying. And so I just think about, man, there's like rodent people that are probably having a sucky time trying to sell rodents where they can also earn a living. You know, most people.
I mean, their profit margins probably are not extraordinarily good.
Not great at all. No.
They can price themselves out of the market not by intent, but just by, you know, necessity to stay alive. You know, it's too expensive, and I got to say, like, so Reptile Revolt is a business. It's Reptile Revolt LLC. It's a business, so we have to do our taxes and all that stuff. And you know, I just did our taxes not long ago, and I looked up like how much we spend in it, you know, annually on food. And last year it was about $13,000 just to feed everything. That's just eggs and rodents, and you know, that's not counting the, you know, we're making dinner and we got some chicken scraps, you know what I'm saying, and we freeze them and stuff like that. You know, that's not counting that stuff. I think this year it's probably going to be close to double that. You know, just by seeing what I just paid for my rodents, because I mean, I'm literally paying almost, you know, probably 35-40% more. So it's going to get real pricey real fast for a lot of folks, and I try to forecast, you know, what's coming down the road as best I can by buying the light bulbs. I'm stocking up on frozen rodents and buying the roaches in the right season and stuff like that. And it's a pain in the ass, but these, this inflation and everything, and the logistical supply chain slowdowns and shortages, it's making everything really hard, for a lot of folks. And for people that are breeding stuff, if you're not feeding it a lot, it's not going to breed for you. The food intake is going to be a direct reflection of what you get in reproduction.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's how you stimulate a female to cycle, is you've got to give her a lean period, for the most part, a little bit of a lean period, and then you power feed them, give them some, calorie dense prey items, introduce a male, and generally speaking, I'm speaking broad, not all species, of course, but generally speaking, that stimulates a cycle. But if you're rationing your food because, a mouse that used to be, 38 cents is now 89 cents, well, just be mindful.
You'll see that.
You will see that in the egg, the egg production that you get out of your stuff. It's a direct reflection. So, trying to stay on top of it. I know a lot of people are trying to stay in front of it, but it's a constant battle. And I wish that I could deal with the grasshoppers. I gotta tell you a story about that, Kai. So I get those grasshoppers from you, right?
Yeah.
I got these big 3-foot wide screen cages in this section of my basement where my tree monitors are. And mind you, I got a big ass trough with like 5,000 crickets in it that you can't really see, but you can hear the chirping nonstop. And I had to have a tradesman come out to do some work in the house, like a plumber or whatever it was. And he's like, so of course he's got to come into the basement. And he's like, Jesus Christ, what the hell's going on down here? He's like, gosh, he's like one of those, like, he's fascinated. He's like, this is really neat. What is this? What is that? What is this? What is that? Tell me about this. And then he's like, all right, let's go take a look at this thing, like what he's here to fix. And it happened to be right next to the grasshoppers. He walks in. The guy doesn't say a word. He's just kind of speechless for a minute. He points at your grasshopper, and he's like, my man, he's like, I got to say, everything's pretty neat, but what the fuck is that? He's like, that's Silence of the Lambs, man. He's like, what's going on? I was like, I know they look creepy, man, because they're not cute little green grasshoppers, like only when you get them. And then when they get big, they're like these big 3-inch brown, creepy-looking grasshoppers that are constantly, jumping off the walls and banging into the walls. And it's a little creepy for a lot of people, man. Like, it takes people a minute to get used to it. And people that don't see it and understand it are like, they kind of look at you like, are you a little crazy? Yeah,
so, a little crazy.
Yeah.
I literally got to lie every day to the worker. They always ask me.
My house liked them but me. I was like, I think they're kind of neat,
Yeah.
Everyone else was like, nah, man, let's stick to the roaches and the crickets and the thing and the this and that.
Oh, it's the trippiest thing, too, seeing them hang from the ceiling as they, shed that exoskeleton.
Everyone was like, what in the hell? Like, I'm all okay with these animals and these reptiles and the crickets and the this, but this has got to go.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm looking back on it, and I'm like, geez, man, like, I wish I could keep up with that because it's a really good nutritional source that's great for the animals, and economically it's fantastic. But for the fact that it weirds everybody out that comes into the space. But,
trust me, I kill hundreds of them every week, man. It's a tricky thing. I have big ones dying, little ones dying, eggs that are drowning all the time, or I dry them out. Yeah, it's a lot of work, man.
Oh, I don't doubt it, man.
Yeah,
I don't doubt it. Just getting mine to go that I got from you and Cody was like, it was like a nonstop endeavor. But it's interesting. Right. They reproduce like crazy, and I'll tell you what, there's not an animal here that didn't go crazy for them. Like, they really loved them. But even for me, I don't mind grabbing a dubia roach. Like, I'll grab a fistful of dubia roaches, and I don't give a shit. But I'd open up that screen door, and I got 30 big-ass grasshoppers, Bronco jumping out of the cage on my chest and face. I'm telling you, man, like, it's a little, it's off.
I catch them to the face sometimes, man. Yeah,
they're prickly.
It hurts.
Yeah,
like when they land on you, they know to kick, and it just
It's like, oh my God, what happened to your face? Oh, I got attacked by grasshoppers. Like, all right, man, if you don't want to tell me what happened, don't tell me.
Yeah, right. Bullshit. I couldn't make them work. I tried, but I don't think I can do the kind of work that they need to sustain them.
Mm-hmm.
So I can order them as feeders, fine, and I can keep them going. to like feed them all off, but to successfully stay on top of them, to reproduce them, I just not right now. My lobster roaches, I love them lobster roaches. I could basically ignore them, send their tub tumbling down the stairs on accident, pick them back up.
They're good to go. They don't care. They don't care.
Man, I wish I was doing those roaches again. Some of those really fast producers, I mean, man, it blows things out of the water. Do
the lobster roaches climb glass or plexiglass?
Yeah,
like goats?
They do.
Yeah,
they do.
I think
that because these aren't in my house and they're at the warehouse. So I was joking with Kai actually brought this up. My whole warehouse is bioactive because the amount of spiders in there that kill off the excess feeders that get out. And then I have like 4 alligator lizards running around. They are the best fed alligator lizards in the world.
They're plump.
And there's different areas they can get to where, they can get up against the wall because they don't need a ton of heat like other animals. But they are just having their way, having a fun time in there. And I realized my whole warehouse is a bioactive, machine.
I got so many goddamn crickets that get loose in my house every single week. Like, I find them everywhere. They're in the toilet. They're in the bathtub. They're in the sink. And everybody's like, dude, what the hell, man? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, you can't help it. Like, you get a scoop of them out of a bucket and one of them jumps out. What are you going to do?
Oh, yeah.
But I'll tell you what, the spider population in this house has never been happier.
Yeah.
Like, and I love snakes, reptiles, creepy crawlers. I'm not messing with a spider. I'm telling you right now. Like, I draw the line right there. But they are so happy. I'm this close to buying like 100 house geckos and just tossing them loose in the basement and saying, man, go live your best life and keep these things at bay.
I've thought about doing that too. Same thing. Just a bunch of, or I have morning geckos.
Yeah,
just let them go. See what happens. But I don't have fruit flies. I think if I had something small enough for them to eat, then we'd be good. But
mine are so dry. It's so dry here. They wouldn't like. I'd have to have like a whole, water cup
humidifier in your house.
Water for them. And then I realized, man, that's not a smart idea because then I got little like fecal matters all over the walls.
Yeah. I used to live in New Orleans and I had those geckos and tree frogs everywhere in my garage, and it was great. But it's like you're saying, Kai, I'd have like little shit streaks in my garage wall everywhere. I'm like, this is unsightly. This doesn't look good.
Unsanitary.
Yeah. Paint over it. No, that's just texture now. You need a lot of texture on your walls, sir.
Yeah. That's funny, man. Yeah, I do have morning geckos in the house now because we keep them here. And so the kids will help me find the little ones. But for all the little – so normally we'll see one. They're usually in pairs. So there's another one running around somewhere. I know that. And if there's one of them – because I look at these tubes. I have these like bamboo tubes in there. And they're just chock full of eggs. And sometimes I'll look down in there with a flashlight and half the eggs have hatched. So I'm like, I don't know where they are.
They're in somewhere. Yeah. They're living their best life, man.
Yeah.
I'm close to doing it, man. I'm real close. It might be a tough sell for everyone else in the house, but got to keep these crickets at bay,
Yeah, bring a little of the the tropical world into your house, It's funny, you go other places in the world, and sure enough, there's geckos just running around doing their thing.
Oh, for sure. I walk around with a shot vac in my basement, just whoop, 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 sucking them up whenever I'm down here. Like, best I can do.
Yep.
Outside of that, just they get out. What are you going to do? You got to buy it. It's necessary. It's a necessary part.
So you just had some lamps go out behind you, right?
Oh, everything's on timers, and it's almost 7:00. So this whole row here is going to start going off one at a time. So it'll get dark in here in like 5 minutes. So, I keep everything as simple as I can. So comes on in the morning, goes off at night. Very little intervention from me to do anything except for check bulbs and stuff.
The math is the same for all the enclosures, and they're hooked up kind of on the same similar timers.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I actually got to go from 8 hours back to 12 and 14 hours. So everything it turns off. I have them on from 8 p.m. till like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And so the lights have been off before I even get up again. So it's like I kind of miss them a little bit, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. They're always like, I mean, they were trying to be active as they could, you know, always wanting to eat, but I had to be really strict on their lean period, and I wanted to see if, you know, taking the males down to 65 and 70 will actually help with the sperm regulation at all, you know. I really think it does.
I don't know enough about it, to be honest with you. Like, I haven't dabbled it. I mean, arguably, like, dwarf monitors benefit from it. I know naturally that they do go through that cycle.
I think I'm just taking what people are doing with the North American animals and then what they do with snakes and breeding snakes, but also, you know, turtles benefit from it. I've kind of read along the lines of other monitors.
Yeah.
Other animals, and then a couple other monitors where, you know, like Dave Kirshner, he cools his lace monitors down.
Yeah, I was just about to mention him. Yeah,
yeah, and that's where, you know, I was really taking it where it's you know, if he's doing it with his lace monitors, basically giving them a break.
Yeah,
and I also was thinking, man, I'm not gonna just go into the next season without a break after 6-7 clutch. Man, one of those coli laid like 6 times.
Yeah, you don't want to tax
like
them too much. You know?
Yeah, from October to March, basically. Just I was like, all right, I'm going to cut you off now. It's perfect timing. The weather's about to change. It's still kind of chilly though, so, you know, if I were to turn all their heat down during winter, it would have been too chilly.
Yeah. You got to strike a balance. For me, my rooms stay fairly consistent. Like, there's a swing with the seasons and whatnot, but it's safe. I could turn the lights off, you know, 24 hours a day, and it would still be safe parameters down here. But I don't actually do really like a like a lights out dormant period for any length of time. Like, I go shorter daylight hours, and I go from 2 bulbs to 1 bulb no matter what. And I do reduced feeding, so they get much less food. Probably
how often?
Like the duration, like how long do I do it? 2 months. 2 months.
2 weeks.
No,
2 months.
2 months. 2 months. 2 months is max, and it's much less food. It's probably maybe 25% of what they normally would eat for that 2
so
months.
Like once or twice a week, something like that.
About that, yeah. It's kind of like I eyeball them, you know. Like, I feel like if you, like, I check on my animals probably, like, no kidding, probably 15 times a day. You know, I'm a little obsessive on it. But I check them out, and if I see one out foraging around and I'm like, yeah, you haven't eaten in a few days, you know, I'll go ahead and I'll get out something and I'll feed everyone that's out foraging. But I don't make a habit to, like, feed every single cage because it's Tuesday the 3rd or whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah. I kind of wait, and I'm like, all right, you're out there foraging around, you must be really itching for something, and it's been a while. And if I don't see anyone out, I'm not throwing anything in, you know, because I don't want to fill up their gut, you know, if they're not going to be able to have enough hours to digest it and, you know, and get rid of it, because you can rot their gut and they can die from that sort of stuff. So that's about the extent I do. But actually this coming January is when Maine gets really, really cold, January and February. What I plan to do is go down from these 75 watts to the 39 watts. And go down to just 8 hours a day. And it's mostly out of just curiosity. I want to see what's going to happen, you know. And I know it'll impact reproduction, you know, but I want to see, like, will these females, you know, will they come back, you know, better and stronger and better? Like, mind you, I probably get 90% fertility, give or take, but maybe there's a benefit. I don't know. But I want to see, you know, there's no harm in trying, you know.
Right, yeah. It's if you can understand how to, I mean, people that are listening, you know, it's not common practice. A lot of people just kind of heat and feed their monitors, so to speak. You know, some people do give them a chance to basically get a break, you know, from producing so much. And if you're kind of used to, or if you've read or even studied or even bred yourself, you know, North American turtles and tortoises, or you know, snakes, people, you know, colubrids to pythons to boas, all those types of snakes. I think a lot of people are doing a regular, basically a cool down. A lot, and what people will take advantage of is they'll take the northern hemisphere cool down where they'll start like in September, October, and that's like an early part of the year. And some people will start not really start until November, December, so it really just depends on when you really want to start. And then you end up with, babies not too long after, like eggs. I think gestation with most snakes is not that long. And then incubating most eggs is like 2.5 months.
Yeah.
Some are a little longer, but most are about 60 to 90 days, give or take.
Yeah.
As far as me applying that to my current monitors, from going from 2020 into 2021, that was my most, I guess I would say, successful year, hatch rate and all that stuff like that. Going from 2021 into 2022, I didn't really cool them at all. There was
Did you see a difference?
No, there was a difference, right? And what it was is from 2021, most of that summer and into fall, they were basically doing their whole thing, right? And so I just kind of let them keep going. I didn't really stop them. And I was really trying to get at least one. Shoot, if you guys are going at this rate,
right,
I'm just going to, keep going. But then I realized now it's several clutches in and I'm not really getting anything. So it's got to be something. The females are magnificent. They're doing their job, laying on time. I'm not really having issues. And the eggs look decent. It's not like they're, porous or all weird shaped or all oddly colored or anything like that. They come out really looking good. It's just they're not fertile.
Have you checked them for veins? Like, do they have veins initially, like good vascular?
No, they're just that. They're like that soggy look when they come out. They're not even really plump.
It's a different texture and everything to them.
It is. It's a whole, like, a really good egg is heavier, firm,
it's leathery,
whiter. Yeah, and it's not so much as I realized that those are kind of soft.
Yeah,
when they're laying them and stuff like that.
Pearls are a little more glossy, also. Texture, like you get to recognize them after a while. Well, you know what? If you saw a difference in it, then you gotta put some credence in it, and say there's a value in doing it, a certain way.
And I think this is where some of these monitors, and it may not be where I'm cooling them down, so much to hibernate or brumate for very long. They're still wanting to be regularly active lizards. It's just I'm not supporting them to be producing, and I separate them so that way they aren't trying to produce. And then I have the capabilities to get my enclosures down to about 60 degrees surface temperature where he can go and sleep. Basically, he's going to tuck there, and I see them utilize it. That's another thing is, instead of chasing the heat, sleeping by the warmth where they do get a random light for 8 hours of the day, he's going to the very coldest spot of the enclosure and taking advantage of it. So I'm just going to, I let them run with that, and I don't try to keep it so hot anymore, like 80 degrees on the cool side, and it's so hot.
Yeah.
It's so hot all around. They really don't get a chill, even just to be cool and dry. They don't have that option, but now I give that option as a mandatory part of the enclosure, or else the cage is too small.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I have one cage. I just, no matter what, this cage is always hot and humid. I can turn the lights off, and I open the cage, and the humidity just hits me on it. And it's built just like the other ones too, but I'm still trying to figure out this one cage. And
super efficient. Just
yeah. It's the one with the black trees in there, and it just, for whatever reason, I cannot get that one. And it's just like the other one. It's a U-line crate. Everything seems like it's set up the same, but I can open up any of the other cages, and it's like, okay, it feels normal. This one I can leave the light off for the day, go in there in the evening, and I open up that cage. It's like the light's been on the whole time, and I cannot, for the life of me, figure this.
Does it have anything in there, like, does it have rocks or anything like that in there? Like something that maintains heat and radiates it slowly?
Just no, not really. I mean, it's got about 10 inches of dirt in the bottom.
Yeah. So,
I mean, other than the dirt being its own little bank, but I started off, I've messed with it in the morning, starting it off cool. And I don't. That cage just now I only have one door on that cage.
Yeah.
It was an idea I was messing around with just to see if like only giving them one door, one way for me to access would help them acclimate in any way, rather than being so frightened of every little thing that walks by. Basically, the one half of the cage they can kind of hide in.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
When in doubt, ventilate. Add some more ventilation, man. Get that airflow, and there's only so much, there's only so much heat going to be retained if you add more airflow to it,
Right. That I might have to that one, and it might be just the way I did the hinges. Maybe I need to check it out. Maybe that door closes tight against the front of that cage, where the rest of them, there's a little bit of a gap that allows airflow that seems to work out. But maybe that one's just sitting a little too close to the
could be
wood on there. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, all my tree monitor enclosures on the left side. There's a I think it's an 18-inch wide by 18-inch tall. It's just a vent. I screen it in, and then I frame it so they can't pop it up, and then there's the vent on it, so they can't get out. So there's the screen and the hard metal vent, and man, it keeps good airflow. Doesn't get too hot. Keeps low 70s throughout most of it, and then high 90s at the very, very tip top, and then low 80s where the basket is. Not surface temp, air temp, and it seems to work. But that 18-inch vent does great. Absolutely great. For $5-10 at Home Depot, it's tough to beat.
I might have to. I got some of those circle vents there. I think they're 2.5 or 3 inch.
Those soffit vents.
They're metal, and they're made for they're made for 1/4 inch material, and you bend the tabs over on the inside.
Yeah, I've seen those.
So I've had some good luck of those. I bought a bunch of those to add ventilation on some things. So and it's real easy. That's another thing. I don't know how this happened, but when you're using a bit to cut a hole in something, basically it has that little can on there with the teeth, and then you have your lead bit in the middle, right?
Yeah.
And I walk in the other day, and my drill's sitting right where I put it down, and the drill bit in the middle is bent like at a 35-degree angle. And I'm like, at first I'm like, did the kids get in here and mess with this thing and drop it? But even then I'm like,
that takes real effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like solid steel.
Thing bend? Yeah. I can't figure it out for the life of me how this drill bit got bent. Like Bigfoot's walking around in my warehouse at night or something.
Good luck getting it out.
yeah. That's just it. I'm like, oh, this is a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was just a fun story. I was like, I can't figure out how the hell this thing got bent. But you know what, Matt? We got on here talking about stuff. Of course, probably because we've had you on before. We covered a bunch of this stuff. But, I don't think you've said, of course, that you keep tree monitors.
Yeah.
But, and probably if people are listening to this, they probably know who you are anyway, that and what you keep. But if you wanted to touch on would you say the tree monitors are your main thing?
I think that they used to be. They used to be my main thing, and I do love them, and they'll always have a special place in my heart and my interest. I started keeping them in, I want to say it was 2001 or 2, and I got my first clutch of eggs in 2003, and that was just pure blind luck. And ever since then, I was just absolutely fascinated with them. But over the last, 20 years of tinkering with them and having them and stuff, I still love them, but I've dialed back quite a bit. And I think the majority of what I work with now, on the ratio there, is probably the Aussie dwarf monitors now. Not for any reason other than the fact that I haven't had as much time with them. So it's a newer fascination, so I'm indulging in it a bit more. But I'll always have tree monitors. You're going to be hard pressed to find me without them at some point in my life. I'll probably be 90 years old in hospice with a tree monitor enclosure next to my bed, or my IV's dripping in my arm or something. But yeah, they're fascinating. They're really, really fascinating. And what gives me comfort is popularity in them has been skyrocketing lately. Because when I first got them in early 2000, I'd never even heard of it. And in fact, I was living in Los Angeles, and I went to where La Habra is, Kai?
Yep. Yeah. I live right here. I go to it every day.
La Habra Pets. Then the owner. Yeah. He's not the owner anymore, but the guy Peck. Do you remember him?
He's the Asian guy.
Yeah, old Filipino dude. So
I think they're still there.
Well, he sold it to a younger guy. I don't know who he sold it to because I had moved away. But Peck was the guy. He was in his 50s or whatever back in the early 2000s. He had black tree monitors and green tree monitors, and I'd never seen them. And I was just fascinated. As soon as you walk in, they were right there when you walked in. And I would spend endless time, talking with Peck and just asking everything about him. And he didn't know shit about them. He's just like, I don't know, feed them. He just thought they were cool. So I finally bought a pair, and just started tinkering with them over the years. And ever since then, slowly popularity has been building. And now we've gotten to a point where enough information is out there about them, about good husbandry, and you've got a lot of folks producing them. You got Cody's producing them, Brian Whitehead, Brian Susan, Brandon Van Astern up in Canada. I mean, there's more people than that. Nick Gill, he's producing them. High at Naked Dragon, he's doing it. Like lots of people are doing it now. So it's kind of nice. It's like, okay, like people are like really seeing these things for the fascinating animals that they are. Because back in those days, people thought they were almost throwaway. They were like $400 for a lizard.
The way they were imported, right? The way they're imported, and then the way people kind of. I mean, there were only a handful of people that were really willing to deal with, how finicky they could be,
and they came in so delicate. They were just beat the hell when they first came in back in the 90s and 2000s. They were they were like on their deathbed, so people didn't want to spend the money on something that was almost definitely going to die. But it's gotten to the point where. Importation is still, it is what it is. Let's face it. They don't come in great, but they do come in a lot better now than they used to. And so the mortality is better than what it once was. They're a little hardier, so it's a little easier to get them started now. But the real beauty is that there's enough captive of them being produced like captive in the U.S. that we don't really need to indulge in the wild caught stuff so much more. And there's such a remarkable difference between a wild-caught, even super acclimated tree monitor as compared to one that's captive bred. I mean, it's like not even the same animal, quite frankly.
Right.
It's really not. People like Kathy Brown, she has some wild-caught that she was raised up for the last 10, 15 years, and they're remarkable. They're outstanding. But it takes a long time for a wild-caught to get that way, generally speaking. But captive produced, I'm telling you, it's one of the neatest varanids out there to get into. They're absolutely brilliant. There's no other varanid that's even remotely similar to them in the true prehensile tail, the dexterity that they use with their hands. Like they really will reach in a cork tube and pull something out. And so this room here is all dwarf monitors, with the exception of this one cage right here. That if you notice, my eyes keep going over there. It's because I got a female blue tree, captive bred, that she's going out next week. So I moved her into here just so I don't forget to ship her ass out. Quite frankly, she's been foraging constantly for crickets. But I point this out just because a wild-caught tree monitor, by and large, is not going to be this entertaining to sit here and watch. They're going to be tucked away. They're not that great, but captive bred, these are amazing. Like I don't know anyone that could look at this blue tree monitor and not fall in love and be absolutely fascinated with it. Yeah. So I'll always have, you know what I'm saying? I'll always have them, but I have scaled back considerably. This entire room used to be nothing but tree monitors also. And then when I peeled everything back and I've gotten more into the dwarf monitors, they took over this room pretty quick. Real fast, actually. And then
I know that problem.
And then the tree monitors moved to another room that got utilized just for them. But I'm really looking forward to more people working with them and more people producing them, because quite frankly, this is just personal opinion, and I don't say this like in a braggadocious way. I think they're about as easy as any other monitor species to breed once you get the parameters figured out. And I get a lot of messages about what do I do? How do I do this? What do you think of this? What does this look like? Is my monitor sick? Whatever, what have you. Tons of this stuff, and it's good. And I answer every single one of them because I really enjoy that part, that engaging of people that are really trying to do it the right way. But the more people that get captive produced animals, it's going to make that much easier on them. They're going to really get past the trials and tribulations of trying to get this thing from, I just want this to survive, to the point where it's thriving. And that's when you really get to sink your teeth into what it's like to have these animals. Because one that's, and this is with all varanids, if it's wild caught, it's got a bad attitude, it's afraid, and it's regurgitating and shitting when you pick it up, and it's hiding all the time, that's not enjoyable. You just sunk a lot of hard-earned money into something that you can't even see and enjoy. And it's off-putting for a lot of people, and it turns them off. And it doesn't elicit any inspiration, But when you get something like this, and it's social, like it's pawing at the glass, and you open it up, and the thing fucking springboards onto your chest and is walking around you, not because it thinks you have anything, but it's curious about you. And like when you get these varanids that they get past that fear, they're past that survive, and they're now into that thrive mode, that's when that bond starts taking place. Like I've got Ackie monitors that aren't worth more than, $300-400 as compared to like a $4,000 blue tree. And I love these maybe even more than some of these tree monitors, just because I hatched them and I raised them, and like I'll spoon feed them like grub pie, because I think it's funny to watch this thing. And like they develop little mannerisms. Like I don't know about all other species that do this, but I've got this one Ackie here. When he's had enough, he takes his hand and he smacks himself in the face. And I'm like, what is this? Nobody else is doing this. But you just start to notice their personalities. And it's when you get to that point with these animals, whether it be a tree monitor, a croc monitor, or whatever, that fear is gone. You really get to see like what this animal is really about. And it's not even remotely in the same universe as that wild-caught, freaked-out, scared animal. And that's the beauty of what I see happening with tree monitors. It was just a few years ago that this explosion happened with water monitors. You know what I'm saying? Like with people with Kevin McCurley at Nerd was blowing them up. Brad Salzwedel was doing the Guru lines.
There's more as we get to the year coming and all that stuff like that. More and more people are doing, and getting better at hatching some of the hard species that are basically really tricky.
We are a hop, skip, and a jump away from reptiles being very mainstream. I was just talking about this the other day with my banker about how if you go back 20 years ago, reptiles were absolutely a fringe pet to have. People were like, you have an iguana? What? Like, that's weird, Like,
now it's like an everyday thing where it's like it's less expensive, better than a dog. You don't have
huge market. It's a huge market. And then if you go back 10 years ago, it's 1,000 times bigger than it was 20 years ago. And then you come today. Think about where we're going to be in 10, 20 years. And the reality is this. Most of the stuff that we have right now will never be imported into this country again in 2 years from now, 5 years, 10 years from now. So what we've got is potentially all we'll ever have. So we're the stewards of these living animals. It is entirely up to us hobbyists that are working with these to ensure their survival in a captive atmosphere from a hobby or an industry standard. And I don't say that in a means to be materialistic, in a money sense. I say it as in this is where the groundbreaking stuff is taking place with conservation. It's conservation through captive propagation, a term coined by Tom Crutchfield. And some people will snicker at that, but the reality is this. If we weren't working with these animals and fine-tuning the ins and outs of their husbandry, and say a volcano erupts on Bantanta and every blue tree monitor in existence in the wild is wiped off the planet, and let's face it, that's a very likely scenario in a ring of fire. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing but volcanic action over there. That stuff does and can happen. I mean, where the fuck did the dinosaurs go? It happens, right? So when it does happen, and it will eventually, this is how this species survives. It's through zoos. It's through captive breeding programs. And while we're, quote-unquote, basement breeders or whatever, well, I got to tell you, I get calls from zookeepers and curators asking me about, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? So there's value added by your everyday hobbyist that's putting in time, and they're fine-tuning these animals, because eventually this is all we're going to have. And I really take it serious in the sense that, like, I want to make sure that these blue trees are always in someone's capable hands. And I turn down a lot of people on sales for stuff because I just don't get a sense that they're serious about it. I don't get a good feel that they're going to set it up right, or they want to flip it. And I'm not selling you any. I don't need to sell you anything. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of known as being a little abrasive with people in that regard. That at shows that I'm just like, no, I'm not going to sell this to you because I don't think that you're ready. You know, like I didn't put all the work to breed. This is a living animal with a personality, a life.
That's how I feel about my stuff too. It's like I can just sell it to anybody. Sure,
no, it's a living animal. It's like it's easy for people to have an emotional attachment to a dog or a kitten or whatever, and they don't like. I don't get a good feeling from this person. I don't want to send this cute, cuddly animal to this, this person because for whatever reason. That's how I feel about these animals. If I don't get a good sense, quite frankly, you're going to have to find it elsewhere. I value every one of these guys' life. I want to make sure that all this offspring goes to a good home, and I really hope other people do because, like I was saying before, this is it. Like you cannot import dwarf monitors from Australia, anything from Australia anymore. So what we've got is what we got, and they're not going to like Indonesia. It's going to get completely blocked eventually. It's just a matter of time. And you know what? I'm not opposed to it. I'm entirely a fan of it, quite frankly, because I think that we basically have enough. If we can pull our heads out of our collective asses and start doing the right thing by these animals, in these captive conditions, in our enclosures and our husbandry, we have enough to sustain an industry in this country, and we don't need to be pillaging them from the wilds, and we really need to get away from it. So I'm entirely in favor of Indonesia completely shutting down. And I'll tell you what, right off the bat, there's going to be a lot of stuff that I'm going to say, man, I wish I had that. I really wish I had it. I'll have moments where I'll have a diva moment where I'm having the moment that I can't have this species that I know I could do right by. But you know what? It's for the betterment of an entire existence of a species, and I'm okay with that. So if it means I can't have an animal that I really want, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to like it necessarily in all regards, but I'm okay with it. It means this species gets to survive. So we need to be serious about what we have. We need to really not just set the bar low and go minimalistic. We need to go bigger and better and be smart about what we're doing. And take care. We need to be good stewards of it. And if we're not doing that, then quite frankly, I don't think we should be doing it at all. And I think when you go into and I'm going to knock PetSmart and Petco, like those big box pet stores. When I go into a store like that, which is not often, it's for dog food, but like when I go, I can't help but look at the reptiles, and quite frankly, it's not inspiring. Like I look at this and I'm like, geez. I feel bad for these animals because that's not the proper husbandry. It's not good. Maybe in a commercial sense, it'll get them by for 30, 60 days until some unsuspecting person buys it. But the problem with that is they see that piss poor minimalistic husbandry and they think that that's the standard. And that's the problem. And that's why they're considered throwaway animals to some people because, you buy it for $20, it dies. Big deal. Well, I think the leopard gecko probably cares. You know what I'm saying? So I think by elevating our expectations of what natives are, by showing, like you can't really see it, but I have enough pictures and videos, and we all do, which show cases like, hey, this is what I believe to be sufficient husbandry. I hope that it inspires someone to be like, you know what, I can build that and I can do it better. I see people doing it all the time. They're doing it better than me. I see these people building these enclosures, and I'm like, my goodness, that's extraordinary. On Instagram, there's this hobbyist Monitor Girl. I don't know her name offhand other than Monitor Girl. She has got the most badass water monitor enclosure inside her house that's probably as big as some people's living rooms. And this thing is incredible. And I see that, and I'm just like, God bless you. Like, this is a person that is truly recognizing that these are sentient beings. They have emotions. They have fear. I believe they experience joy, comfort, satisfaction, and this person embraces that by giving them everything that they need and could want. And it's a very good replication of, wild husbandry standards. And we can do that with all these things. We can do it with everything. There's not a species that we have and we can't replicate, the conditions in some way. Now, mind you, you're not going to make your living room a monsoon, but my God, there are ways to replicate without destroying your house. And I think when I look back to the 90s, like those 10 gallons with the screen tops, to where we are now in 2022, man, if I saw someone with my enclosures in the 90s, I would be like, what in the world? Like, it wouldn't even dawn on me to do this.
Right. So I remember enclosures were like, for like the tree monitors, right? There was some zoo, and what it was 2 Neodosha cages that were really tall. And it had a bunch of vines in it, and then it had one connecting to
yeah.
And that was so old school.
I think I remember that.
It was like black and white pictures. They weren't even really fully colored.
Man. But that's how it starts, man. You got to start. Yeah. That's your ground floor with husbandry. And now we've got, in 20 years from now, what is it going to look like? I'll tell you right now, in 20, 30 years from now, people are going to look at what I'm doing right now, and they're going to be like, my God, what were you thinking? But you know what? Like it's progress. It's a body in motion. We're trying to improve. The more you learn, the more you implement. The more you implement, the better your successes. Your results are. And I can only hope that it gets better from here. And I really believe it will. And the fact that I see people like Nick Gill, Cody, Brian Whitehead, Brian Susan, all these other folks producing monitors, tree monitors specifically, it's working.
Mm-hmm.
People are being inspired. People are making these great enclosures. People are doing, right by their husbandry standards, and the results. You can't manufacture the results. You can bullshit all you want. You can show fabulous things, but if you're not, if you're not consistently getting life events out of these animals, meaning reproduction events on a consistent basis, they're not thriving. They're just surviving. So when I
Matt, whoa. You're starting to sound like a puppy mill, man.
It's not. Well, it's designed to do. It's worth remembering. There's a reason, like a fish has 1,000 babies.
Yeah,
it's because in the wild, most of them are going to die. Go to a sea turtle nest. What percentage of sea turtles are going to make it to adulthood? Practically none of them. Almost. They're designed to lay massive numbers of eggs over a period of time of their life cycle because their days are numbered in the wild. There's no guarantee this female is going to make it, 6-7 years. So in the meantime, she's got to be like a Pez dispenser with those eggs in the wild to ensure the survival of her species. So when
you can see them grow. In captivity, they grow.
Yeah, you're not exploiting them, in these enclosures by replicating their conditions and stimulating life events to where they're thriving. This is literally what these things are designed to do. And the reality is this: if you're supporting your animal with its dietary needs, UV light. I don't even listen to people that they don't need UV light. You're out of your mind. Of course they do. It's the synthesis of like vitamins and all this stuff. Like it needs the sunlight. It needs UV. Come on,
it's a sun chasing lizard.
Come on, man. So this is what they're designed to do. And if you support them properly, they're going to do what they were intended to do. So it's definitely, I know you're joking, but it's definitely not puppy mill. It's
oh no, that's that's just the argument I get when I'm like, but you're not having success. If you're keeping it so good, but you're not having success, then what's your measure? And it's
the job's not done yet.
Well, yeah, it's like, how the animal's cuddling with me, and I'm like, no, that animal's dying. The animal's stressed, and it closes its eyes and goes to its happy place. But
he loves to wear the sweater and lay on my chest. Like he doesn't. He really doesn't.
That's why I brought that up. I've been called, well, you're just after the puppy bill. I'm like, if I showed you how much I put in, like you were saying, food bill, electricity, rent for things, and
there's not a lot of money in it. If you do well, I think that we do pretty well. You know what I'm saying? But I think if you do well, you will make enough to feed everything, buy all the materials to house everything, and it's not cheap, man. Like the light bulbs, the lumber alone to build an enclosure. My God, the feed bills, the cork, everything is expensive and it's going up. The animals themselves are going up. But if you do well and you get, steady reproduction out of your stuff, I think that by and large you make enough to support it. That's about what it boils down to. You make enough to continue it. So anyone that's like, I'm going to get 12 lizards and turn it into 100 lizards, and then I'm going to keep some of those and I'll make 1,000 lizards, and I'm going to become lizard rich. you're a fool. Okay.
Right.
That's just not really how it works. You might make a little bit of a profit, but you know where that profit goes? Back into it. It just goes right back into it. I joke all the time, like, geez, I just sold this animal for X. I could put that away, or I could buy more branches and cork. I could buy more feeders. I could buy more bulbs. I think about how I can put it back into this to make it better. So, yeah, it's a business, so to speak, but it's really about a passion. And if you don't have a passion for it, the business aspect of it, it's not going to work. It's just not.
Right.
So, you got to have
that's
for it.
That's part of what I was, talking about, possibly scaling down from a bunch of the, mainly the Indonesian stuff. And it's just, at the time I thought it was a great idea to get into it. My life ran a certain way. I was on a certain schedule. All that's changed. I got a new position, and the kids were younger too. And now they're doing more active things. It's like, okay, well, where am I going to put my time? And, it's
there's only so many hours in the day, man.
Right.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, if I weren't retired, there's no way I could do this. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's just no way. I don't know where I'd find the time. I really just don't. I don't know how anyone does, quite frankly.
Yeah. For me,
you're really up in the middle of the night, early day.
Well, see, it's getting dark in here. Everyone's shutting down.
So I think that's where I'm headed personally, is just to, and maybe in the future, of course, keeping connections with people that work with some of these animals I want to work with. But I'm at the point where, hey, that might be 10 years from now when the kids are kind of out of the house, or 10, 12 years from now.
Yeah.
And then I'll have to pick that back up and pick that passion, that one that I wanted so bad to work with, to figure out, I got to make those choices right now and keep a few things. It's almost like I can hold on to the ones that I know that I can do a certain way. And that's mainly the Australian stuff, because of the temperature swing in the warehouse, the seasons, the way it all hits here. I've kind of got that figured out, where I'm still figuring out the Indonesian stuff, and I'm not sure I can make it match up without putting a bunch more money into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, okay, time to make some choices. And I got all this passion inside, but you
got to have more time sometimes.
Have Allen's.
It takes money for sure to replicate, good husbandry parameters. But for me, it's a time suck, Yeah. It's note taking. I take notes like constantly. Like all my enclosures, the glass on one side is just riddled with notes, like copulation, vitellogenesis, ovulation, this eggs on these dates, this. I mean, everything's documented, whether it be on the glass or in a notepad. That takes time, though. And if you don't have the time to devote to that, it does make it a lot harder to get a good sense of what they want, what they need, what they respond to. And that's when, like you said, it's a good time to think about, all right, what do I not only have the ability to do, but what do I have the time to do? Right. And everybody makes that decision. And that's why I scaled back on my tree monitors, because I was like, well, I really want to get into these dwarf monitors. But I can't have, 15 pairs of tree monitors and then 20 pairs of dwarf monitors. That's a crazy person, you know what I'm saying? So it'd be great, but even as a person retired, that like I don't have the time for that. I still have other things to do, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we all gotta take stock of like where we're at, and not just for us, but for the animals ourselves. Sometimes it's like, you know what? I'm not doing justice for this animal. I need to move it on to a better situation sometimes. I know I've done that. I tried teaching with a Savannah monitor pair, and I was just like, I'm doing terrible. Like, I am out of my lane. Like, and I moved them on to someone else that would do better, and I gave them away. I was like, I paid money for them, but I'm going to give them away because they're going to go to a good spot. So not always an easy thing to do for a lot of folks, but time is money, and you can't make more of it, especially when you got kids, family, jobs, and all other things, tugging at your, for attention. So
right.
This doesn't always got to come in first, and it can't. So
Yeah, that's kind of where it's at. So it's over the next couple weeks. I got some decision making to do, and who's going to stay, who's going to go, and I'd love to keep them all. I'm fascinated by, like you said, these tree monitors, but I just don't think it's what I can do right now. Yeah. Now I want them to stay, close to go to somebody I know who's going to do good with them, but
give them a little justice.
Yeah. But except for the blues have to stay. Those are the one Indonesian monitors that'll stay as the blue trees. But we're talking like the blue tails even, which I recently actually just got into. Yeah, they're growing great.
Those are beautiful.
Yeah, they're absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I got some killer animals, but just thinking about time, money.
Down the line, those are crazy 4-foot lizards. They're not like that.
They're impressive. Yeah.
They're not. They're too much beast for me.
I've seen the bite they can put on someone too.
There's some serious animals.
YouTube has a video of Dave Durham. He got chomped on one, and I gotta tell you, that bite scared the hell out of me. It was oh man, it was like putting your hand in a blender. I felt so bad for Dave. I was like, my God, buddy.
That was a big animal too. That was a big one, right?
These things eat mollusks, crabs, like solid shells. Like if they can crunch through that, the soft, fleshy skin on your hand is no match. So,
even those welder gloves, I felt some teeth through those like thick falconry type of gloves. I was like, woo! Yeah. And they're not full grown yet.
I don't mess with croc monitors because I'm like, you know what?
Yeah, I
only got 10 fingers. I'm not coming up with more, so I know they can be awesome and whatnot, but it's too damn big for me, man. I don't have the space,
Yeah.
I don't have the space to do it right. I don't want to cram it into one of my tree monitor or dwarf enclosures, and that's not fair,
Right. Yeah, yeah. I guess I'll leave it at that rather than going through all my life stuff at the moment, but and like even trying to get on to record a podcast, and I feel like I'm doing a disservice sometimes, but it's like life is just, this, that, and I don't have enough mental capacity to even keep all the dates I'm supposed to remember in my head. Like, what's going on? Like you were joking, so I don't forget to ship off this animal. I'm like, I've been there.
This week, man, I forgot 2 different days on this one guy. I was like, I'm sorry. I sent him 2 instead of 1 because I felt bad. I was like, I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah.
Here's 2. He's like, I didn't ask for 2. I'm like, I don't care. I felt bad. I'm sorry.
I've been there.
Yeah, don't think I'm a piece of shit because I forgot. I'm just human.
Right. So. All right, guys. We're about almost 2 hours. We got in some good stuff. It was fun just actually sitting down and talking monitors. I haven't felt like I've done that with people in a while. So not even you, Kai. We're like, hey, what are you doing?
So busy
doing
lately,
this,
man.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
No, it's been great, Matt.
Fun, man.
Yeah.
Again.
I wish we could go over the stuff we went in that first episode with all the secrets to everything, but that was a one of a lifetime episode we did. We lost it. Sorry to all the listeners out there. I'm just messing with it.
You gave away to tease the life. So
yeah.
A lot of luck.
The tribute. What was that? The Jack Black song. The tribute to the what is the best rock and roll song ever? This isn't that song. This is the tribute to that song, but we can't remember it.
Yeah, if you want to know what was said, just send Kai messages. He'll answer every one of them.
Every single one of them.
Every one of them will get a prompt reply.
Hey, Matt, where can people find you?
So I got a website, reptilerevolt.com. Instagram is reptile_revolt. And then Facebook page is Reptile Revolt, of course. So don't do a lot of shows these days, but we ship worldwide, mostly worldwide. Most tree monitors go to the EU and Japan. Starting, I think, probably maybe this year, maybe next year, I'll do domestically instead because it's really a pain in the ass, quite frankly. But it's pros and cons that come with it. Other than that, we ship worldwide. Most of the year we do ship. It is Maine, so it gets a little cold, so we don't ship some months when it's just it's not safe. But you can find us on our website, Reptile Revolt. Facebook, Reptile Revolt, or Reptile_Revolt on Instagram.
Good stuff. Kai? And for the listeners, Kai's rocking the Mangrove Mecca shirt on here. You can't see him, but we can. But where can people find you?
We convinced him to put his shirt on.
I'm a little bit, I wear my shirts like all the time. It's like, all right, this is a clean shirt. I'm just going to throw it on. Yeah, you can mostly find me on Facebook. I'm under just Kai Fan. I'm most responsive there. And then also I have a Mangrove Mecca page now. It's Mangrove and space MECCA. You can also find me on Instagram under big_lizard103. You can find me on YouTube as well under Mangrove Mecca. There's quite a few places you can find me. And then most importantly, you can find me underneath the Morelia Python Network. So, where we do this podcast for you guys and everything like that. But most responsive on Facebook. So if you want to get a quicker answer from me, then that'd be the place to hit me up. And what about you, man?
All right, you can find me at Origins Reptile on Facebook or Origins_Reptile on Instagram. Again, like Kai mentioned, you can find our podcast and all the other podcasts at Morelia Python Radio Network. Go onto their website and check it out. There's a ton of different podcasts. I can't even keep up with them all. I feel bad because these guys are putting out some great information. And guys I've looked up to over the years, and now there's just so much information out there and good information coming from good people. And you'll find a lot of crossover people too. So we might have a guest on that we're talking lizards, but they keep something else. And, they're just good guys to listen to. Eric just has done a fantastic job. Talk about being busy, keeping a collection. He has a few monitors now and all his snakes, and then somehow balancing a regular job as a manager and then all these podcasts. I don't know if I could do that.
That's who you need to message. He's found a way to find more time in the day than everybody else.
Yeah. Some wizardry going on over there that, I think, they joke about him being a hobbit. Maybe he has the ring. Maybe that's what's going on.
That's right.
But yeah, that's where you can find me. Check out the Morelia Python Radio website and get involved. Help support these guys in any way you can. Other reptile keepers that are trying to progress species, husbandry information, tap in and support these guys, support each other so that we can do the best by our animals and the best for each other. So on that note, thanks guys. And
thanks so much.
Yeah, talk to you soon.
Thanks. Have a great weekend.